Hi, this is Coach Jimmy Breslin, Top 10 Florida Baseball. We're talking about pitching today. We're getting ready to do a pitching session this afternoon, and we're going to be talking to our pitchers about staying closed on the front side and about the importance of disconnection. There's basically three things that we want to do with our pitchers. We want to be able to have them throw pretty hard. We want to increase their velocity. Two, of course, we're looking for their control, which will lead to command. But most importantly, we're trying to keep them safe. Now, in pitching and throwing, there is the risk of injury. If you don't do well as a hitter, you're just going to struggle and it's going to hurt your team and you're not going to feel good about it. If you struggle as a pitcher and you do things incorrectly, you can also get hurt. You can injure yourself. And we have a lot of arms going down early in their careers because they are throwing in such a way that they have red flags, what we call red flags in the business. A red flag means there might be some slight danger in the area. So one of the things that we're talking about right now is front side connection and opening up too early. We're going to talk about two pitchers that we saw over the weekend at a showcase in Fort Myers, and we're going to put them up on the screen side by side so you can see the difference in what they're doing. Essentially, when we throw a baseball, we need to use the whole body. We need to use the front side and the back side. And if the arms extend too far out, if that glove starts throwing around the corner, if that front shoulder opens up early, that player is opening up too early. Technically, he's going into what we might call disconnection. He's disconnecting from his body. When an ice skater wants to spin very, very fast, they bring their arms in. When they want to slow down the maneuver, they throw the arms out. What makes us able to throw a baseball really hard is very quick torso rotation. That allows us to hit a baseball quickly also. We don't necessarily swing the bat hard, we rotate the body firmly against the stiff front side. Backside crashes into the front side stiffens up, the front side stays stable. When the front side's moving away from the backside's chasing the front side, we lose compression, we lose torque, we lose velocity. We're also losing control, and we're also risking injury. And these are three things that we don't want to do. So we're going to take a quick look here at the video. So here we're going to look at two pitchers that we watched over the weekend, and they were both pitching against each other in the same game. Here we have an older player who's 18 years old, and we have a player here that's 16 and a half. Now it's interesting to note as we watch these players that this pitcher threw 16 miles an hour harder than the bigger pitcher. Now this pitcher has a bigger body. This pitcher has a smaller body, but he threw many more strikes. He had much more control, who has the ability to throw the ball around 83, 84 miles an hour. And this pitcher is throwing 68. That's a 16 mile an hour difference, yet he's older and stronger and has a bigger body. Now here's why. Here's what happens. When the pitchers get to this position, they're both a little bit disconnected. This is called hyperextension on the backside. This is hyperextension on the front side. A little hard to see on this angle, but this pitcher is also hyperextending on both sides. As we roll the tape, and I'm going to roll that backwards for just a second so you can see it. Okay, so we're watching them go into their wind-up here, and they both have a pretty nice leg kick. And right about here, we'll see the tremendous disconnection on the front side. Now they're both at foot strike at this point. So this is a very important angle that we measure. Where is the ball at foot strike? This player's glove is connected. His front shoulder has not pulled out yet. And his ball is at an external rotation at about 165, 170 degrees. And his chest is leading the way at foot strike. You notice on this player, his arm is completely disconnected. It's run away from his body. His arm is not in a good throwing position, and his torso has not made the turn. His front shoulder is pointing towards third base. That is disconnection. He's losing a tremendous amount of power. He's not able to control his ball. Again, this boy was throwing the ball at, in the 70 mile an hour range. He wasn't able to exceed that. So he was relying on some guile and some wits and some off speed to try to fool the batters. But here's a pitcher that should be throwing 86, 87, 88 miles an hour. But he's not going to. He's not going to until he changes his mechanics, until that front side starts to connect a little bit, like this play here on the front side, and until he stops throwing that glove all the way around the corner. Now, his backside now has to do all the work. As a result of the backside doing the work, he's now risking more injury. He's risking rotator cuff or ULC on the elbow. We don't know where it's going to, the weakest link is what's going to go. So he's putting a lot of stress on his body because he's flying out on the front side. And we're going to back that up just a little bit so you can see it again. Okay, so while we watch this now at full speed, what I want you to try to pick up with your eyes is to look at what the front glove does. We're going to look at the lefty first. And as you look at the lefty, I want you to watch his front glove run away from his body and run around the corner, and how it pulls his front shoulder in the opposite direction. Well, now he's got no front side body to pitch into. The backside must push through and slam into the front side. The front side must stay stable. It can't be running away. When does that front side turn? When the pitcher's torso is 3/4 of the way down his stride path. That's when that front torso, you know, often pitching coaches say you're opening too early, but they never tell the pitcher when he should be opening up. He has to rotate. Yes, he has to rotate, and he does have to open, but not until well late into the delivery. Not until he's 3/4 of the way down the stride. This pitcher is rotating very, very early. It's going to cause stress on his arm. We don't want that to happen. We don't want boys to get hurt. This is a simple fix. This is something that can be fixed in 10 minutes. It makes us crazy when we see 18, 19, 20-year-old players doing it for their whole lives. And everybody's excited because they're having a good day, because they got a couple guys out and they're pitching good. But they're not going to go anyplace. There's no scholarships, and there's no Major League scouts going to be interested. And I know that this boy is interested in a college scholarship, and I haven't spoke to him, but I'm sure that he wants to go to college. And I'm 100% sure that he would love to pitch in the Major Leagues. But it's not going to happen until he makes these adjustments. And he's risking injury all the way down the line. We don't want that to happen. So now we're going to take a look at our younger Dominican player here, who really is an infielder. He's coming in, he's throwing some relief, he's throwing some innings. He has worked on his pitching, he's got a pretty decent pitching motion. And if we take a look at him, he disconnects a little bit, but then he recovers very quickly. He's got a very nice coil. He closes up, the glove comes back inside, and he's able to stay stiffer at the point where his foot strikes. This is a very important position in the pitching sequence. What happens, where are we at when the foot strikes the ground? Because that's when all heck breaks loose. That's when we're really able to generate a lot of power. So where is his foot? Where is his arm at foot strike? It's in a perfect spot. Where is his front glove at foot strike? It's in a perfect spot. This is a younger player who is 40 pounds less, over a year and a half younger than the other player, and he's throwing it 14 miles an hour harder with much more control, because his style and his technique are much more Major League Baseball style. This is very important. This is going to allow him to avoid injuries. It's going to allow him to be consistent. It's going to allow him to throw more pitches under more pressure with more success. And that's what we want for our pitchers. So let's take a look at him on full speed, and then what we'll do is we'll take a look at him at foot strike position, and we'll take a look at him when he reconnects. And again, you'll see that he disconnects just a hair, but he pulls it back in, and I call that a little bit of a late reconnection, but it works. As long as it works, as long as it takes the strain off the backside arm, as long as it allows for a late delivery, as long as it allows him to engage his entire body, and his entire body can throw that baseball, and not just his arm, and then we're accomplishing something. This young boy did a very good job that day. He's been trained in the Dominican Republic. He's from Santo Domingo, and he's been working with some good pitching coaches down there, and he's also in very, very good shape. So let's take a look at him now at slower speed, at foot strike, and we can see how he starts to disconnect a little bit on the front side, and then he pulls it back in and makes a very nice torso rotation from a connection position, from a closed shoulder position. What's not happening here is his front shoulder is not flying out, which is what happened with our previous player. We don't want that front shoulder to fly out. We don't want hyperextension on the front side, and we don't want that hyperextension to continue to create a big disconnection on the front side shoulder. Thank you. So here we're going to look at two pitchers that we watched over the weekend, and they were both pitching against each other in the same game. Here we have an older player who's 18 years old, and we have a player here that's 16 and a half. Now it's interesting to note as we watch these players that this pitcher threw 12 miles an hour harder than the bigger pitcher. Now this pitcher has a bigger body. This pitcher has a smaller body, but he threw many more strikes. He had much more control.